What's happening, guys? Alright, for those of you that are tired of motorcycle videos, there have been engine repair videos and whatnot going on. I brought both of these out to the shop because I wanted to go through Big Bill and how it self-healed as I was going through it. A number of the things that self-healed, one being the front brake caliper was stuck when I got it. The caliper just freed itself up. I loosened up the 14mm bolts here a couple turns and pumped, and it freed up. It doesn't leak, it backs off the way it should, so the master cylinder is good, so I didn't have to worry about that. So that was the first real quick thing it did. Went through the engine, took care of a few maintenance deals with it, put some gas to it, got it to run on 2 cylinders, pulled the carbs, cleaned the carbs, put the carbs back on, synced the carburetors, adjusted the valves, and the clutch pack was stuck. So I went in the oil hole, the oil check hole right here, with the clutch roped to the grip, and very gently cranked the engine over and got the plates, the clutch plates and the backing plate to free up. So the clutch is okay. My last hurdle was it was not charging. So out riding it just around the neighborhood on nothing but battery power, and all of a sudden I came to a stop. I shut it off. I turned it back on. I hit the start button. It started. So I turned the headlight on and I revved it, and it had started charging again on its own as well. Now remember, this one sat for 14 years. And this one is sporting all of its original paint, all of its original chrome, right down to the beautiful all original 4x4 mufflers. So, and the obviously the paint came back just looking absolutely spectacular all over the bike. I stripped it back down naked. The luggage rack is gone. The front fairing is gone. I still own them, they're just not on the bike right now. The crash bar I leave on because I like having the foot pegs, and I'm currently sourcing a crash bar for this one so I can have foot pegs on that as well. And a lot of the stuff that I felt that the bike deserved, the yellowing from carbs leaking, I have left on there, but it wouldn't take much to clean that up, and I may go ahead and clean that up. But I also wanted to show you just the different attaching hardware and whatnot. Now, Big Bill does still have some evidence of the yellow paint from factory. Okay, you got that little bit of yellow paint there. I'm sure if yep, there's the yellow paint there. It has some of the original yellow paint on it. Not all of it, but some of it. Like over here, where I have paint on the brake and on the swing arm bolt, there is none on Big Bill. By the way, Big Bill is a 1973 CB 350F, the smallest in the transverse 4-cylinder lineup. There were other models between the 550 and the 350. Not worried about those. Those are not on my collect it list. If one falls in my lap, I won't turn it down, but they are not on my collect it list. So there we have Big Bill, the 1973 CB350F in Candy Bacchus Olive, which is a blue base coat and a gold candy clear coat. And I'll show you the proof of that right here. You see that I relocated the key switch from down there to up here. That's a project that's also going to get done on this. but I need to make this bracket. I did that on the CB125S as well. So let's get in the trunk area here. Bump. This one retains its original owner's manual. It's just not in here. It's got its original toolkit, air cleaners underneath it. But if you get in the light just right, you can see the blue underneath the gold. That shows that it was kind of a royal blue. So that's that. Nice bike. Love riding it. I just turned 11,200 miles on it not too long ago. That's extremely low mileage for a bike of this vintage. I have seen them with less, but most of the ones that I have seen have had more miles on it than that. And everything just works just fine on this. I've had to do very little maintenance, just, you know, the typical thing. Oil the chain, grease all the pivot points, so on and so forth. And it has just been a marvelous, dependable 46-year-old motorcycle. Now let's step over here to Garfield. Garfield came to me having sat for 16 years, 2 years longer than Big Bill had sat. Fortunately, they were both stored right. By being stored right, I mean empty. Well, Big Bill did not have an empty gas tank nor empty carburetors, which is why everything had to come apart. That's where Garfield, the 1975 CB554, shined. Tank was left devoid of gas, carburetors were drained. That's a perfect scenario for anyone looking for a bike as a bike that has been stored properly. A barn find that has been stored like this is not real common, but it's worth its weight in gold. So what did I have to do with Garfield? So far, we knew that we had 2 floats that were leaking. I now have 0 floats leaking. Yeah, that's right. The floats have self-healed. The front brake did not self-heal. And I do have evidence of fork seal leaks on both sides. I just got the kit yesterday, so I will be doing the fork seal replacement. If you go to Classic Octane, Tyler has numerous videos up on these specific Hondas, the 550s, the 500s, so on and so forth, and he does a good job of explaining how to do things. So it's not necessary for me to do it. I don't need to step on his toes. I'm just giving him a shout out. If you guys are looking for Honda related maintenance and whatnot, go to his channel. We were talking about the yellow paint, and if we look here, there is our brake light switch yellow paint. Here is our brake line yellow paint, and fortunately the brake system, the caliper was removed, and because the caliper was removed, all of the brake fluid drained completely out of the entire system, which in a sense saved the brake lines. We come over here. Here is the old caliper. I'll get back to the paint, but you can see how wet that is in there. It is so pitted that it would not seal up, so it just went bye-bye. No worries, no major loss at all. New caliper, peace of mind, and the master cylinder, just like on Big Bill, the master cylinder has no problems, 0 problems. I do have a rebuild kit for it, which is sitting right here. So when I put the bike in mothballs for the winter, I will still be rebuilding that master cylinder. But again, Classic Octane, go see Tyler's videos. He covers 9/10 of what to look for and how to do things on these. I reset the cam chain tensioner. It reset just fine, took care of that. No issues with the fuel petcock. The tank is clean as a whistle, not a speck of rust in it. Air cleaner looks brand spanking new, so we're good in that regard. Did not have a stuck clutch, and it was charging right off the bat, so I didn't have that to worry about. Let's get back to the little painted markings. Then we look right here on the lower fork clamp. We have our yellow paint mark there. We can't see them on Big Bill. We can see the upper, but there is no paint on the uppers. We come over here to these uppers, and we have no paint on these uppers either. But then we come back over here, we have more paint here. And like I said, this is usually removed. That's usually gone. So as we look through and have looked through before, we have our yellow paint on the brake. We have our yellow paint on the axle pivot nut. And there are a number of other areas where we've got the factory original paint. The brake, if you look, there's a mark and an arrow. There's an arrow here and a mark right there on the brake housing. That is just your guide, your visual guide as you're wearing down the brake pads to show you how much life you have left without having to pull the wheel. And if you watch, I'm going to depress the brake, and you'll see it only goes down about a third of the way. So still plenty of life left there. Unlike Big Bill, who has really good tires, these tires look great. They've got a ton of tread on them, but so I can find a good spot here where it's real evident. We'll go over to this side. Let me grab a flashlight too so that you guys can get a little bit of a visual. Okay. As you can see, hopefully, even though these tires look fantastic, they do have some dry rot going on, and it goes around the whole circumference, so it doesn't get ridden a whole lot. Although I must admit, going into town, I have put 106 miles on the bike since getting it. It's getting 35 miles to a gallon, which is within range of what they should get. But what we're going to do today, or what I'm going to do today, is the clutch cable. You can hear it. Listen. Clutch cable's in desperate need of being lubricated, so we're going to grab out our trusty cable lubricator, lubricate that cable, and I'm just going to go over and lube all of the other important points on the bike, which I'm not going to videotape. Tyler goes through that on Classic Octane, but I've already oiled the chain, took care of that. Like I said, adjusted the cam chain tensioner. It just requires you putting this cylinder at top dead center on the compression stroke, and then loosening this nut tucked way back in there that hopefully you can see, and it will self-adjust. You just give that little screw just a little twist in either direction and it'll self-adjust. So let's get back onto the carburetors. I have 0 float leak now, none. On top of that, it was running a little choppy. I put my vacuum gauges on, off camera obviously, and the vacuum is even and equal across all 4 carburetors, so they don't need adjusted. And just running good premium gas through with a little bit of seafoam in the tank has cleaned the carbs from the inside out. So I no longer need to take the carburetors off and clean them. That is just brilliant. And I'm certain enough that the fuel bowls are good and clean and clear, because I took my laser thermometer, temperature sensor, and went across all 4 banks after warming the engine up, and they were all within 5 to 10 degrees of one another, so I don't have a cylinder running lean. If you have a cylinder running lean, it's going to be a lot hotter exhaust coming out. Don't have that problem. All the spark plugs look great, oil looks great, everything's just going marvelously. So all that's going to get done today really is just going through and lubricating everything, lubricating that brake cable. So without any further ado, I'm going to tell you how to get the brake clutch cable off. Then I'm just going to take it off, grab that, get my chain and cable lube, spray it in there until it comes out the bottom, and I'll show you that here in a second. But you pull this 10 millimeter bolt out. There's a lock nut on the bottom side, 10 millimeter. Pull that out. That'll allow you to free up the handle. But before you do that, you want to pull the choke thusly, and when you pull the choke, you can get a nice thin screwdriver to go in and wedge and hold the clutch open. There's other ways to hold the clutch open. So I'm going to get that done. I'm going to get the cable out, lubricate the cable, and probably just end this video. I have been having editing nightmares, and I've been working meticulously with Microsoft, who have been wonderful. They actually, because of my issue, I've been in contact with one of their representatives. They have created a patch for the Movie Maker Pro to correct an issue that I was having, and I'm anxious to try it out. So that's why we're shooting this video today. One, just to give you guys the comparison between the two and how the two of them excuse me, have pretty much come together on their own with just a little bit of preventative maintenance. So that's enough babble, plenty of it. Let's get busy and get this off and lubricate that cable. Then we'll get this rather long-winded video ended. Well, isn't that just peachy? I just spent the last 5 minutes babbling just to myself because I didn't have the camera on. We got the cable out. The cable is really, really sticky. If this was touch-o-vision, you'd want to wash your hands. To get that out is pretty simple. Like I said in the previous clip, pull the clutch. I just shoved a screwdriver up there with a rubber handle, and the clutch arm is resting on the plastic part of the screwdriver, and I've got the rubber handle wedged with the kickstart. So we're going to get our cable adapter on there. After we get our cable adapter on there, I'll kick the camera back on. Cable lubricator, excuse me, and we'll get that lubricated up, and I'll show you what we're looking for when we do that. We're looking for the lube to come out the other end of the cable just a little bit. Then we'll reassemble everything after cleaning it thoroughly, because the handle, the clutch handle, is quite gummed up and quite dirty. So we'll get that all cleaned up, and then we might go ahead and just clamp the GoPro on and take her for a ride. So hang on, let me get the cable lubricator on there. Alright gang, went through and I cleaned up the clutch handle. I also cleaned up where it goes in and inspected everything in there, and it all looks good. Now what we're going to do, it's actually pretty easy. You just take, there's a slot in this center rubber piece here, okay? Just insert the cable, and then you bring it down as far as it will go. If that's where it stops, it's stepped. That rubber gasket in there is stepped. Then you just clamp everything down so that it holds everything good and tight, like so. Once you do that, you put your chain and cable lube right on there, and you just start squirting. It's going to make a mess down here, but you just wrap a towel around the base. In this case, we'll just use a shop towel. And let me grab the, well, we're about out of view. I better get this can before it gets too far out of view. I'm using PB Blasters chain and cable lubricant, long lasting. It's been my experience with it in using it that it does not gum up, and I got as much of the gum out of there as I could, so we're just going to attach the hose and make sure that we've got this properly wrapped up so that we can catch all of it. And then you just spray little intermittent bursts, little intermittent bursts, and you just keep repeating that until the oil makes its way down to the other end of the choke cable or whatever cable you're lubricating. So we'll cut back to the other end of the choke cable. Hang on. Alright, we're down here. You can see that this is a little bit wet now, so we have successfully lubricated that cable. It's just a matter of putting everything back together. After we get her back together, I'm just going to work that clutch for a little bit, tire my hand out, and see if we've improved it, because this clutch is uber easy to pull because I went through that same process over here on Big Bill when I got it. So let's get her put back together and work that clutch a bit and see if we've improved it. Alright, here we go. Got everything back together. We have a little bit of adjusting to do here, and I've also got this shoulder bolt just a little bit too tight. Let me loosen that up just a tad and then lock her back down. First I have to loosen this one on the bottom, and I have to, should have done that the other way. That's better. Now I just need to loosen it with just a hair and bring this one back up, tighten it back down. Too much. Gotta play with it a little bit sometimes. Keep your minds out of the gutter. There we go. We'll call that good. See if that, not that tightened it up too much. There we go. Okay. Now, you always want just a little bit of play right here. And so this is adjusted just right. I don't have it locked down yet. So we'll lock it down now very carefully. As to not mar that. Oh, so much easier. Any of you want to try it? Want to try to grab that? So much nicer. Let's take a look at the other side. And you see evidence that I did get enough in there, right down there. And I'm just letting the rest of it drain off onto this rag. I'm going to go through and finish lubricating spots, but here are my fork seals, and they also come with dust caps. So why don't you guys tell me down in the comments, do I put the gaiters back on, or do I just put the dust caps on and let the forks look a little bit cleaner? You guys let me know down in the comments. And that's going to wrap this one up. It's your friendly neighborhood Zippo, and I promise you guys I will see you on the next one. If you're not subscribed, you can click right there and subscribe, and then hit the bell notification to be notified every time I upload a video. And then over here and over here are a couple of my older videos. We'll see you on the next one. Later. I'm out of here.